It's no secret that grocery prices aren't what they used to be. I saw this meme and I had like a good little laugh cry about it. Things that I used to be able to buy for a certain price to get to a certain number, like a $5 dinner, it doesn't really work the same way anymore. It still can be done, but it's just a little bit harder. The key to still staying frugal and not breaking the bank in 2023 and beyond really is making smart swaps. And that's the key with poor man's meals. You may discount them based on their names, but the truth of the matter is a poor man's meal simply means that we're gonna swap out something more expensive for something less expensive. So it's a version of a meal that's a classic and delicious, like a poor man's stew. Generally, we're gonna be using chuck beef in a stew, and in this meal, we use ground beef instead, and it's still delicious. So these meals are just a great way to be frugal and make savvy swaps to maintain the same grocery budget when the groceries are more expensive. And they are just as delicious, and that's why I feel so good about sharing them with you. We're gonna start with a poor man's casserole. This is nice and similar to a poor man's lasagna that I've done in the past, except we're gonna be using actually a few less ingredients, and we're gonna be using egg noodles, which is something that is very inexpensive. You can usually find at the Dollar Tree and are super delicious. So you wanna start by browning 1 pound of ground beef, and you could use a little less or a little more depending on what you have. I bought a big family pack on sale and then kind of broke it up into 3 dinners. So that's just what I was pouring in there. And then I just use a little meat chopper to chop it up. If you don't have one of these, it's my most used tool, I swear. And I always have it down in my Amazon store, and you can also buy them at Dollar Tree. So however you want to do it, I feel like I use it all the time and I love it. So I always want to recommend it and share it with you. You want to cook that until it's fully browned, and I'm going to leave all the grease in because this is a poor man's meal, so we're going to try and get as many calories as possible, but it's your choice on how you want to do it. If you want to drain it out, that's totally fine too. To the ground beef, you want to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of onion powder. You notice we're not using fresh onions in this just because it's less expensive, but if you had fresh onion on hand, you can cook that right along with the ground beef and it would taste really good in this, so it's your choice on how you want to do it. And then to the cooked ground beef, I added 2 teaspoons of sugar and 2 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce. This is the really cheap tomato sauce, like 40 cents a can, and it's perfect in this. So I wouldn't even try to use the marinara if you don't need to. If that's what you have on hand, go ahead and use it. It's fine. But this is just so much cheaper. And then you want to take 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. I think you could also use cottage cheese in this, so that's an option. And mix it with a cup of sour cream or Greek yogurt, whatever you have on hand. I use sour cream, and you just want to mix that until it's mixed really well. This is kind of like a ricotta replacement, I think, but it's definitely a different flavor and it tastes really delicious in this meal. And then you want to cook up a 12-ounce package of egg noodles, but really whatever you have on hand is going to do. So if you have like penne or really any pasta would taste absolutely great in this. So I would just use what you have and make it your own. Once that pasta is cooked according to the package instructions, you want to drain it out and then add half of it to the bottom of a 13x9 pan. And then you want to kind of like blob on if that's the technical term for it, the cheese mixture, because it's kind of thick, so it's not going to just spread on top of the noodles. So you just want to put it in little pieces on top. And then you want to do that with half of that mixture. And then you want to pour half of the ground beef mixture on top of that. Then the rest of the egg noodles. Then repeat the process. So more of the cheese, or the rest of the cheese, and then the rest of the ground beef. And then on top of that, about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese, but I think you could use any cheese that you have on hand. So mozzarella would be fine, Colby Jack. You can shred your own cheese. If you don't have a ton of cheese, that's fine too. Just kind of sprinkle it on, do what you can. It is one of those things that you should just use what you have and not spend a lot of money. And then you want to bake this at 350 degrees for 25 minutes until everything is melted and delicious and bubbly. This is also a great one to kind of make ahead, put in the fridge, and then put in the oven when the time is right. So you could take it out about 30 minutes before, put it in the oven, and it's going to be super delicious. I served ours with a Caesar salad on the side, and it was just the perfect family meal. And it was one of those things where I kept going back for another bite and then another bite. And then before I knew it, I had like 2 servings. But it's really addicting and really fabulous for using what you have on hand. For this next one, we are going to be using ground beef instead of chuck stew meat to make a poor man's stew. And this is another really, really good one, especially good this time of year, and you can make it in the crock pot. So again, you want to start by browning a pound of ground beef, and I actually had ground venison because I had found it on clearance, so that's what I used, and it tasted really good. So whatever you have, you could also use like ground turkey or ground chicken. It's going to give it a little different flavor if you do that, but it's definitely an option in this stew. And then if you do have any extra fat, you can drain it out if you'd like to, and then just pour that ground beef right into the bottom of your crock pot. And then to that, you want to add 3 large sliced carrots. So you want to slice those carrots rather thick, maybe like 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. And then about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of potatoes. You could use russet potatoes. I had like yellow gold potatoes. That's what I had on hand. So I did peel them and then I cubed them, and then you put those into the crock pot as well. And with that, 1 yellow onion diced. If you don't have like a fresh onion, you could always use about a teaspoon of onion powder too. That's always an option. And then 2 cloves of minced garlic. And again, you could use about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder if you don't have fresh. And then I just added the garlic to 2 cups of water. And to that added a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. And that's going to kind of give you like your, I don't know, like your sauce to go on it, right? The part that makes it a stew. Then about 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. So lots of flavor there. Give that a mix and just pour it over the whole thing. And then you want to cook this on low for about 6 hours. And that should cook those carrots all the way through, the potatoes all the way through, and really meld those flavors together. And this was a really fabulous dinner. It was a really hearty meal, especially for the fall and winter, and a nice set it and forget it. So you just have to do that chopping in the morning, cook up that meat, and you're going to be ready to go. It's really delicious with like crackers or rolls on the side. It's just a really great, inexpensive meal. This next recipe is called Poor Man's Chicken Salad. Now this one really intrigued me because if you can see those saltines off to the side, those are the secret ingredient. I had some leftover chicken from some drumsticks, so I just cut the chicken off of there. The recipe says you can use a can of chicken or you can use a whole chicken and shred it. That was kind of fascinating to me because I felt like a can of chicken versus a whole chicken is a big difference in the amount of chicken. So I think this recipe is pretty loose, which is totally fine by me. Then you want to take some dill pickles and cut them into chunks. This is going to depend on how much you love pickles and how many you want to put in. So again, this recipe is very, very much up to the creator of the chicken salad. So I love pickles, so I put quite a bunch in there, and I don't think I'd recommend putting any more. That's about 2 cups of chicken and probably about 1/4 cup of diced pickles. Now you also want to add in 1 sleeve of crushed saltines. And now because I hadn't made this recipe before and it really wasn't clear how much chicken I should be using and pickles, I did decide to use 1/2 a sleeve of saltines just to stay on the safe side. If I were to do it in the future, I might add the whole sleeve because why not? It turned out great with those, so I just wasn't sure. Were these going to be soggy saltines? Were they going to be crunchy? What was it going to taste like? It was a surprise. The saltines actually act like a great filler for this chicken salad and make it seem like there's more salad or more chicken when maybe there isn't. And I think that's the kind of poor man's part of it, is add in those saltines to bulk it up. But it really is fabulous. Like, you would never know that that was saltines in there. And I even read in the recipe, the woman said, "Oh, I've made this a million times and no one has ever questioned the saltines. No one's ever asked what was going on there." The recipe itself calls for 1 cup of mayonnaise, and it says you can do it to your liking, so it totally depends. I like a mayonnaise-y chicken salad myself, but a little bit will do you good if that's what you want to do. I think you could even do like a little olive oil, salt and pepper, whatever floats your boat for your chicken salad, you can add here. Even like a little mustard would be totally fine too. Now the final addition to this is 2 hard-boiled eggs, and mine were actually like cooking while I was making the salad, so that's why they're going in last, but you can put them in at any point, and I have to peel them with one hand because the baby's in the other hand, but that's what we're doing today just to get this chicken salad going. Overall, this recipe is awesome. It's a great way to stretch chicken that you already have. Kind of interesting too, because it's kind of a mix between almost like a chicken salad and an egg salad, but really for the most part it tastes like a chicken salad, and the saltines are just a great sub. For more frugal swap ideas, check out this next video, and make sure the next time you're on YouTube you're watching Meals with Maria.